I thought I'd do a quick car video before I nip out and pick up a ladder from my father-in-law. I promised Mrs. Sheepdog that I'd basically find all the boxes and stuff from when we moved into the house 2 years ago that we don't ever use, and I would put them in our loft. I don't really know what the plan is here because I've not been in a loft since I fell through the ceiling at my mum and dad's house. Partially because the lofts we've had at our houses were never really big enough to get into, but I don't know, maybe I'll go in it. I'm not going to film in it because I will fall through the ceiling, and whilst that'd be fun to get on video, that would be the blame, and I'd never be able to do an insurance claim if I had me filming going, whoa. But no, the weekend's been quite fun so far. Sorry I didn't do a video yesterday. I left work on Friday night. I know I did a video that evening. I don't think I talked about the fact that I have got the New Zealand Pokemon now, the Relicanth. I met up with a guy in Peterborough. I was so nervous. I was convinced that he was going to turn out to be some sort of axe-wielding murderer who was going to basically, come up to my car window, open the window, and then grab my phone and leg it or something. Not that that's what axe-wielding murderers do, but yeah. And I absolutely put my foot in it twice. I walked towards him, and I'm texting going, I think I'm walking towards you now. As I got close, he's wearing full Pokemon Go clothing. So I was like, okay, you're the most obvious person here. You're definitely the person I'm supposed to be coming to meet. He asked me what my username was. I said Sheepdog. I asked him if he was Sick Hands, and he goes, it's Sai Chand. And I'm thinking, what does that even mean? And then as I'm walking away, I realised that his name was Simon Chandler. So he's not Sick Hand, which I thought was a really gross username to have. So my glasses are steaming up while I talk. I'm going to take them off. I look so blind when I take them off. So then, yeah, I got home. I've regaled Bosco with the story of how I now have a Relicanth. I put it in the local gyms, and I'm worried that everyone's going to think I'm some sort of spoofer now. But if anyone sees it, it means they get it in their Pokedex, and they've got one seen. I picked up Tropius in the week, so today I'm going out later tonight to meet a lady in Deepin. Mrs. Sheepdog finds it very sinister that I'm going out to meet a woman, but she's given me the last Pokemon that I want, and then I've completed the Pokedex until tomorrow when Pokemon quests come out again, and there's a Celebi quest, and that will take about a week to do. So I'm sort of really pleased I'll get to spend 12 hours going, yeah, completed it, mate, and slightly gutted that it's going to be that quick. They're going to bring out the next one. When I got Relicanth, I said I only needed 2 more, and then they changed the raid Pokemon, so Regirock was out, so I went and caught that as well. I'm quite enjoying the fact I'm at the cutting edge now, and every time I get something, they bring out something new. If they can keep doing that for a bit, then I'll just be sort of, I'll have a carrot dangling in front of me the whole way. That's not the only thing I've done this weekend. I mentioned it in my last video that I put a tweet out saying if I can get to 250,000 retweets, my dad will stop reading the Daily Mail. I'm a bit disappointed in him for picking 250,000. I showed him, so I'd text him saying I'd seen this image online of someone asking their mum to quit if they got 10,000 retweets, and I thought he'd be like, yeah, go on, I'm game for that. And I was thinking 10,000 retweets is pretty good. I can follow some of the people, gain some new people that I know or whatever, follow online. It'd be fun. He says 250,000. I've got 4,500 so far, which is an amazing number. But the fact is, I'm 246 or 243,500 or whatever away. I've done the maths wrong there. 245,500. Just doing it on the fly. But yeah, I sort of said to him, why did you pick such a high number? I mean, obviously he doesn't want to lose the bet, but I should have negotiated with him, damn it. It's been fun watching it go because other than the Stop Funding Hate people, no one famous has retweeted it yet, and Kev's refused because he doesn't want to do politics on his videos, which is fair enough. So I'm kind of in this limbo of I need someone famous to give it a shot in the arm. If I could just get like people who hate the Daily Mail into it, it'd be great. It's been one of those things where it's plagued my family outside of my parents. It's plagued them really for 15 plus years. They come out with nonsense all the time from it, and you're like, that's not true. Here's 100 facts about why that's not true. I've tried to teach my kids to just take it off them when they see them reading it, which is unfair a little bit. I recognise, I mean, some people said to me, why are you trying to dictate what your parents do? And I get that that's not exactly right, but I taught Lamp Up and Bosco to just walk in and take the newspaper off them. Sometimes we've had times where they've read stuff out and it's been such nonsense that I've just taken it and put it in the bin because I'm like, look, I'm sick of hearing this. As I've said to a few people who messaged me, because I'm getting a lot of messages of support and then the odd message of just like, what are you doing, or being a bit abusive. And it's been quite funny actually. A couple of times I've said to people, look, if you have family members who read this paper all the time and are constantly giving you their opinions from this newspaper, and you're constantly being met with really dumb opinions that aren't true or are based in lies. And that's not me getting political. I'm not trying to say it's about parties or anything, because it's not. It's about fundamental things about the world, like silly things like computer games cause violence. You know, computer games cause people to murder people, and you're like, no, every study in the world has shown that that's not true. And you're telling me, oh, don't let your kids play games, or too much time on the tablets is going to make them serial killers. And I'm looking at them like, no, it's nothing to do with blue or red voting patterns or these things. It's absolute pseudoscience nonsense, like something's going to make my brain smaller or whatever, and they just don't really, they believe everything. Aspirins give you cancer, stuff like that. It's like, oh my god, you know, they probably had a headache for the past 10 years because they're too afraid to take a paracetamol. So it's not me being like, I don't agree with their political views. It's me being like, I wish they'd stop reading this source, and just find something else to read with their time. Or I even said to them, just don't read the news, just watch TV, just watch like programs, just, I don't know, get into arty stuff, whatever, anything. My dad's a fantastic drawer, but he spends all his spare time watching TV or reading comics. That's what I do, reading newspapers. And I'm like, you should just sit there and doodle, because he's fantastic at it. You know, if he'd have put all the time he spent reading newspapers into artwork, he'd probably be a world famous artist. He's genuinely amazing at it. I can't wait for him to retire and get into art, because I'm going to make him draw pictures for me to put on the walls. It'll be brilliant. So that's been fun anyway. Somebody messaged me going, oh, you're just looking for attention, what a knobhead. And I just sort of jokingly replied to him going, all right, yeah, maybe I am, what of it? And then I clicked on his profile, and he's a teacher who writes about teaching and just styles and what schools do wrong and right. And he's one of these. So he worked at, so a lot of schools now, and Lampup's school does this. They teach using, so they don't teach like how I was taught or how most of you would have been taught, where they talk about the subject and they go into great detail about the specific subject, and they talk about the theory, and you're trying to apply it to stuff and that sort of thing. Nowadays, a lot of schools, including Lampup School, teach using themes. So her class have spent, I don't know, 4 months learning about the Celtics and the I can't remember what the other side of that, would it be the Romans? It was probably too early to be the Romans, but it did leak into Romans eventually. But they just did everything about that. So they learned, you know, they used that to learn maths, they used it to learn geography, they used it to learn history. They did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for another 2 months, where they learned about food and nutrition, and it sounds brilliant on the face of it, because you're like, okay, they're taking a book about Willy Wonka and they're turning it into a whole theme that they're going to focus on for months, and the kids are going to know all about eating healthily and working out sums and ingredients and mixing and literature and, you know, writing properly, and they had to write their own sort of stories to add on to it and supplement it. But the problem is that some schools, and so her school seems quite decent with this, but some schools, and the school I worked at was very like this, will say the whole school theme is superheroes, and then you'll be sat there thinking, well, I was about to teach them databases, now I've got to sit and try and figure out how to do a whole lesson where I've got a whole 6-week arc where everything has to link to this superhero theme. And like you're saying to kids, right, okay, so the Justice League have lost track of all of their superheroes and they want to build a database, and so you're going to have to help me build a database that talks about the hero's name and their superpower and like where they're from and what they look like and, you know, their weaknesses, and we're going to have to categorize all this on a database. And again, it sounds great, but when you're talking to a, I don't know, like a 14, 15-year-old, they're looking at you like, what planet are you on? Like, what on earth is wrong with you? And you'll have 1 or 2 kids going, like, the kid like me would be going, superheroes, awesome, yeah, you know, I love superheroes, I can do that. And, I don't know, you'll be sat there going, I can't believe you put weaknesses in as, like, sunlight for Superman, you moron, everyone knows it's kryptonite, and they'll feel really smug. But then, and I'm going to sound a little bit sexist here, but this was my experience. I don't mean to, it's not sexist, but what I mean is generalist. In my experience, there'd be 6 or 7 girls just going, I have no idea about any of this and I'm not interested and I'm off. And you'll be going, well, why don't you do yours about something you are interested in? And they went, nah, I'm just off. You know, if they're not included in the class thing, they're not interested. And that used to be the problem so often. You just get a kid like, I've never read a comic in my life. I've never seen a superhero. I don't know what you're on about. And it's not always girls, and I know millions of girls, you know, like comics and that sort of thing. I'm not saying they don't, but the theme would just kill it dead. And you think to yourself, I taught this to like a year 13 class where everyone left me alone, and it's a bit different because they're older and clever at that point and so on and so forth, but they'd just sit and they'd learn the facts, and you'd talk through some real world stuff, and you might give examples. If I can spend 5 minutes going, imagine the Justice League need to profile it all and so forth, they'd be like, yeah, okay, that's a good hook. I can bear it for 5 minutes. But you know, the school would mark you down if you didn't do it the way they wanted you to do, if you didn't do the whole thing around it. And it was funny reading this guy's article, going back to my point. I messaged him back. He's giving me all this like troll abuse about being an attention seeker, and I said, why are you being like this? I've just read your article and it's brilliant. It's exactly my experience of being a teacher. It's exactly what I agree with. That's part of the reason I just couldn't do it anymore, because I was being marked down for not jumping around like an entertainer, you know, linking everything to whatever theme some, you know, ancient dinosaur of a teacher who has no way of connecting with a 12-year-old could ever even dream of doing. And it's quite funny because he reacted, he was just like, oh, thank you. And then we just went on a debate. Then we just started talking about teaching for the next hour. And a couple of things I've took out of it, he asked me why I didn't teach anymore, and I said, well, I just quit, basically. I got 3/4 of the way through. They suddenly switched. The person who'd been, I don't think I've ever explained it on here, but the person who was assessing me had given me a pass, a decent pass, and then she left to have a baby, and a new person came in and gave me a pass and then said, we can't have anyone here who's getting this level. We've made an agreement with the local authority that everyone's going to be this level, so if you pass at this level, they're going to make you go up to this level with loads of abuse and whatever. And then she just hounded me for weeks and kept coming into my lessons and trying to make sure that I was doing all these theme things and that sort of stuff. And she didn't understand IT in the slightest, so she was telling me that I was wrong for teaching programming the way I was teaching it, because the students I was teaching it to weren't going to do that in maths until year 9. But I was like, I've taught this to so many other classes before you've seen me do it, and they've all got it, and it's like one of the most basic points of programming. It's where I have to start because my lesson starts there, because that's where the module starts. Every programming teacher in the country is starting at this point, just because you don't understand it and you think that because you're a maths teacher you're high and mighty, you know, and all of this. So anyway, I ended up just thinking I can't do it anymore. I was so depressed, I was so ill, I just quit, and I thought that was it. I mean, I'm very happy in my job now, and I won't leave it. I'm not planning on getting out. You know, the feeling I kind of have with it is I'm just going to ride it out until either they want rid of me or they sell up or whatever. But he said to me, because I assumed that was it, teaching was dead because I didn't do it. I thought there was a 5-year limit or something like that. But he asked me about it all, and he said, no, there's no time limit. You're qualified to teach now indefinitely until you fail something that you shouldn't have failed. And the fact that you haven't failed anything, and there isn't anything left to fail except for I'd have to go back and spend a month doing like an assessment, which I would pass. He was like, yeah, no, you can do it. And that's been the most weird brain lift. I mean, I mentioned a couple of weeks back that one of my students now works with me where I am at the moment. He's our marketing guy. And just chatting to him and realising how very little it affected, how little they noticed any of the dramas that were going on for me. And when I said I'd left, they were like, we just assumed you got sick of the school. And it was one of these things where I was just like, that's amazing. I had it in my head that they were going to have all these jokes and rumours, and I was going to be because someone else left and they were the butt of so much stuff. It always used to howl me in the back of my mind that everyone would have thought I'd been driven out, but for some other reason or whatever. So hearing him say that was really nice, and then hearing that it's not even burnt, and if I ever wanted to I could, and like it's a safety net forever now, I'm qualified, that really made my weekend. I was just like, that is brilliant. I now know, no matter what, I mean, IT is so high demand and supply teachers are so high demand. I always get offers, come and do some supply teaching, and I just assumed they hadn't updated the database, but it turns out I'm legitimately qualified to go and do it. And that was just a bizarre turnout. So considering this started off as I'm going to do a jokey Daily Mail thing on the internet, I'm going to do a video about Pokemon and stuff, it actually got derailed by this conversation with a complete stranger that I'll never speak to again, who started trolling me. And normally I probably would have given him what for, and I'd have trolled him back, and we'd have had a back and forth. But I just happened to think, I'm going to see who it is, I'm going to read his article, and it was a really well written article. And he said to me that schools are starting to get more traditional and they are starting to change, and that's really good. And I hope they do, because part of me feels like someone like Bosco would get too carried away with the theme and he wouldn't notice any of the learning. I think Lampup maybe has picked it up. I don't know, its learning style's different for different people, but if I asked Lampup what she'd learned from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, she'd probably remember the main bits first. And I get that a lot of it is subtle, and that's the point, but not everything works that way. And schools who are insane about it, like mine was, I think her school would be flexible. My school, it was not flexible. It was stupid, and I could do videos and videos about the dumb stuff that happened there, but I feel like some of it would be libelous and probably shouldn't. I'm going to wrap up anyway, because I promised I'd be over to my father-in-law's to get this ladder about 20 minutes ago. I'm late. I've done a 15-minute video now. I did promise I'd do a second video, so maybe I'll do one later. I'm wondering what treasure. I can't say treasures. Treasure. Wonder what treasure I'll find around the house when I do this tidy up, because there's boxes in cupboards all over the shop, and who knows. So maybe I'll do a video about that, but maybe I won't. If I find any cool swag that I can give away, I might set up a giveaway. That'd be quite cool. I've not done that before. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and I will see you lot tomorrow. If you haven't been on Twitter yet, go to RB6K and retweet that tweet. I need so many more thousands of people to retweet it so that I can cure my family of their scientific ignorance. I'm hoping retirement will just do the job for me, to be fair. They'll stop buying it because they won't go to a newsagent, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow or later. Depends.